Abu Lahab had two sons who had married two of Rasulullah's daughters.
Sure.
And he requires them to divorce them.
Right.
So it is just not that there's a blood ties and there was a marriage ties. He forces his two sons to divorce Muhammad's two daughters. However, integrity, honor, fairness, no, will not allow me to conceal the testimony for the truth. And as much as I love him, I love this city more, and I love the Kaaba more, and I love my religion more.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's one thing to face opposition from strangers. It's another when those closest to you, your own uncle, for example, or your tribal elders, in this case, stand before crowds and publicly denounce you. In this session, we witness Qurayshi elite using the Hajj as a staging ground to reject the Prophet ﷺ and his message. Suhayl ibn ʿAmr crafts a 4-point argument against the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Lahab, the Prophet's own uncle ﷺ, steps in to add venom to the message itself. I'm Sajjad. This is the Criterion Concepts Seerah podcast. With me, as usual, is Assad Koshul, the founder and lead facilitator. And Assad is going to help us understand today how these bloodline arguments are being used, in this case, at the Hajj, to block the call to the Prophet ﷺ has started to articulate. Assad.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So here what we have at this time now, it is time to actually execute the marketing plan that was developed at Dar al-Nadwa. So Suhayl ibn ʿAmr is known as the most eloquent of all of the Qurayshis in terms of speech. So like Abd Shams is known as the one who has the best command of Arabic. There are other people who have different qualities, but Suhayl ibn ʿAmr is known as a very eloquent speech maker. So he is now takes center stage, literally, at the Kaaba. And what does he start by? He starts by proclaiming the legitimacy of the Quraysh as guardians of the Kaaba. We are guardians of the Kaaba. We are in this privileged position because Allah wanted it this way. And he says, and he argues that since we are guardians of the Kaaba, if anyone tries to harm them, the Quraysh, Allah will turn the scales against them. Right? What does he do? He invokes the story of the elephants.
Sure.
So there are people who are alive who have witnessed. See, we have heard of the miracle.
Right.
There are people who are alive who have witnessed the miracle.
Right. In their lives.
In their lives, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the birds to Ashab al-Fil, Surah Fil, to chase away the elephants who came with an army with ill intent towards the Kaaba. So he starts with that. Then he starts with the Quraysh are the legitimate guardians, their privileged position. Then he invokes actually a miracle sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he advances and he makes 4 main arguments. He says, number 1, this man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's broken bonds of kingship. 2, he is talking bad about our forefathers who are no longer in this religion, in this world, by saying their religion was false. 3, he's talking bad about the gods that you have come here to worship.
Right.
You've come here to the Kaaba to worship these gods, and he's talking bad about those gods.
Right.
And the last main argument he makes is most of his followers are still the poor and the weak. Right. There are people in the Qurayshi elite, such as Uthman radiallahu anhu, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that have it. But majority at this stage, the working class or slaves.
The less privileged.
Less privileged. So he makes these arguments. And then he goes on and he says, you've come here and you may have already heard of this new religion advocated by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what we want to tell you is that he's one of us. And we're now forced into a position that he's one of us, and one thing we could have done is we could have tried to cover this up. But we're very honorable people. We're very honorable people. And so even though he's one of us, what are we doing? We're looking out for your best interest. We're looking out for you. And because even though he's one of us, we're denouncing him so he would not mislead you.
He'll not mislead you and ruin your Hajj experience.
Ruin your Hajj experience. And so that you then don't denounce us to say, why didn't you warn us of this danger?
Right.
And we're denouncing him publicly so you can't blame us for his actions.
Right.
Even though again,
he's amongst us.
He's one of us.
Right.
And he says, our obligation, again, he's playing the card that they're the guardians of the Kaaba. As guardians of the Kaaba is to inform you of this evil. This is our obligation. Again, even though he is one of us. And he says, we could have covered it up, or we could have warned the Arabs of his sorcery. And, as we discussed earlier previously, they've decided to try to make the label stick that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a sorcerer. This is the label they've tried to make stick.
That's it.
So he said the path that we've chosen is the path that is best for you, because we're looking out for your benefits in mind. And your benefits is to warn you of this evil, because for us, it would have been best to try to cover this up. So you see how he's playing this card of them being guardians of the Kaaba and how they're looking out for the Hajji's benefit.
Right. So
by keeping them from listening to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message.
Even here, the spin is that, had there been no message and no challenge, they would have been standing in front of the Hujjaj and saying, we're here to take care of you.
Exactly.
So they're kind of doing the same thing, and they're saying, we're here to take care of you. And so in order to do that, in this case, we're here to tell you that there's this set of problems that's happening.
Exactly. And then you see how he likes to move towards the final, his appeal, his final argument. That look, we appeal by you the sanctity of this place that you have come from all quarters to come to. Honor the sanctity of this place. Honor us as your hosts. And keep in mind, we've hosted you. We've hosted future generations of you, right? So he's playing the card of political legitimacy and fair. Be fair to us. Be fair to your host.
And don't entertain this guy.
And don't entertain. And he extends by saying, look, again, he's one of us. If what he invented was good, would we not be the first to accept it?
Right. And Abu Lahab specifically makes this point.
Exactly. So he says, he's a sorcerer. Stay away. Protect yourselves. And his sorcery is so dangerous. What does it do? It causes families and tribes and clans to fall apart. That's how dangerous it is. And he says, again, be fair to us. Look how noble we are as guardians of the Kaaba. We won't let other people, other tribes, other Arabs end up with what we've rejected on our own, even though he's one of our kingsmen. Honesty, integrity, and fairness require us to reject him, and honesty, integrity, and fairness require us to inform you of him so you can also reject him.
It's interesting also because, I'm listening to you explain, and the argument that he's a sorcerer and he's going to cause tribes, families, etc. to break apart or to cause tension amongst them. If I'm there, I'm thinking, okay, so you're actually, by telling me this, you're actually exposing the fact that he's been able to do this to you yourself.
Exactly. But you see, again, people may say, okay, this is a risk. I don't want my son to rebel against me. I don't want to have a fallout with my immediate blood relatives. And this is interesting that during the speech, Abdullah actually leaves. Abdullah is Suhayl ibn ʿAmr's son.
Okay.
And he's the first of the two brothers of Suhayl ibn ʿAmr's sons to accept Islam. Okay. He tells me shortly thereafter, I believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his message. And he actually fights at the Battle of Badr against his father in the Battle of Badr.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, and Suhayl ibn ʿAmr also eventually accepts Islam, but Suhayl ibn ʿAmr becomes a prisoner of war at Badr. So it's very interesting. Abdullah radiallahu anhu fights on the side of the Prophet ﷺ at the Battle of Badr. Suhayl ibn ʿAmr is obviously on the Qurayshi side, and Suhayl ibn ʿAmr is taken as a prisoner of war. So it's a very difficult situation some of the Sahaba went to. So he was happy that his father didn't get killed, but his father was a prisoner of war. So now Abu Lahab comes in and very venomous attack. where he says it's a personal attack, it's an intellectual assault by saying, I am his direct uncle. His direct uncle. And he addresses Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a very derogatory manner. And he says, I'm the direct uncle. I should have been the first to protect him and to accept his message. And however, integrity, honor, fairness, no, will not allow me to conceal the testimony for the truth. And as much as I love him, I love this city more, and I love the Kaaba more, and I love my religion more.
So that becomes his spin, and he is presenting that as the truth, which again, because of his stature, people are prone to accept because he is.
Yeah, but it's even deeper than that, Brother Sajjad. See, because here, Abu Lahab had 2 sons who had married 2 of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's daughters.
Sure.
And he requires them to divorce them.
Right.
So it is just not that there's a blood ties and there was a marriage ties. And he forces his 2 sons to divorce Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's 2 daughters. It's extremely venomous. And he says, I used to love him, but I love my religion and the city more than him. He forced me to choose between him and my city and my religion,
right,
and my forefathers, and I've decided to choose that. So this is how this plays out. Their basic core argument is what? We, the closest relatives, have rejected him, and whoever the Hajjis are, they're not as close in bloodline wise as the Quraysh are. You should do the same. Be safe, do your thing, spend your money here at the Kaaba, and go back to your families. This is how they position this.
So it's effectively all emotional manipulation. Right? There's no real arguments here. It's all emotion. And there's a political narrative also being crafted. If his own blood rejects him, then you should too.
Exactly. Yes. If the people closest to him have not accepted his message, and as Abu Lahab says, we loved him, we cherished him, then if there was anything good, would we not be the first to accept?
Right.
So it's a powerful argument. It's not a irrational argument.
No, it's
incorrect argument.
Right. It's an intellectual battle on the basis of lineage, honor, and fear of some sort of social upheaval or destabilization.
Yep. Exactly.
So emotion appeals over reason. They're weaponizing their blood ties, and even saying that even though we had ties, we severed those ties because of the message and the discord that he's sowing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the anxiety of the influence during Hajj, I mean, they must have been anxious, right? And so, as we highlighted in a previous session, so they really had to go on the offensive here.
Yes, they're really trying to say, okay, this is the most public relations, the most visible public relations battle to date. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has now declared his message publicly, and this is going to be the first Hajj since that. And, they advanced an argument. Obviously, we disagree with it, but they're saying, how can we trap him? By saying he's a sorcerer, and by saying by the importance of family allegiances.
Right.
This is the core argument.
Right.
And everything else is a derivative of that argument.
Right.
And it is emotional manipulation, right? We're the guardians of the Kaaba. I mean, it's not honorable for you to come here. We're your hosts. We provide food and water and for you when you come here. We provide safety. It's understood that nobody is allowed to do highway robbery, especially to the Hajjis. You're safe here.
Right.
Okay? And now we're faced with this, and we are being very ethical. We're extending ourselves.
And transparent.
Yeah, that's what they're arguing,
right,
that we are very transparent. And, obviously they're not, but that's what they're arguing. We're very transparent. He's one of us. He's gone off the rails. We want to let you know about him. We've already rejected him. And you should also be fair to us. You should be fair to us because we're the guardians of the Kaaba. You should be fair to us because we're your hosts. You should be fair to us because of historical ties, etc., etc., etc. And you should also reject him.
And then Abu Lahab, his role in all this, what's he doing to the emotional that nobody else could do. I mean, he's no
Yeah.
ordinary character in this whole series.
Yeah, exactly.
This whole exchange.
In this specific case, he's just not one of the Quraysh elite. He is the Prophet's direct uncle. He is the father-in-law of two of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's daughters, and he forces his sons to divorce those two daughters. I mean, think again with the context, 7th century Arabia. What would make a father require his sons to divorce two daughters of somebody who was from the same clan? I mean, that's a very, very significant step.
110%.
And obviously, we're going to think, something crazy must have happened.
Right. Not taken lightly, that decision.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a transactional relationship.
Right.
This is family honor. This is clan honor. This is tribal honor, and this is a lightly taken position. But you see what has happened.
Let's maybe shift to contextualizing this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've highlighted and we've talked about how emotional appeals were instrumentalized over a reason. The blood ties were weaponized, and we talked about how all this was being done during Hajj. In the contemporary milieu, media and political discussions, we see them all the time. Political discussions in the media, I should say, who is often platformed, to try and discredit reformers, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ and the companions represented the reformers here. We see that happens quite often. People are coming up now and trying to reform things. Who is often placed on the TV screen as the opposing voice who's going to discredit those?
Supposedly, many times it's going to be somebody who is a former member of that group, right? Or a relative of the group. So the same public relation cards or trickery is played today. Like they're saying, okay, family dynamics. This person has caused families to disrupt.
Right.
And that is the most important unit, period.
Right.
You don't want that happening to you, do you? Right? Here they're saying there's a foreign policy component. This is no longer confined to Mecca, right? And so we see this, right? And when we look at the spin, this is what it is. Like, okay, for example, if you find people generally in the United States who are against global warming, you'll find that they probably have somewhere along the way they're compensated by perhaps the fossil fuel industry.
Right.
Yeah.
In order for them to basically oppose the cause, the opposite side funds them.
Exactly. And so the card that they're playing is this person is a social disruptor. It was the same card played against the civil rights movement.
Right.
That why are you disrupting society?
Right. We have a system.
We have a system.
Right. Whites here, blacks here.
Exactly. We have a system, honor the system. And so this is the thing, and generally the privileged class is going to emphasize the importance of social stability, because whatever system is in place,
it works for
the
them.
privileged class are benefiting from the existing system.
And any sort of change threatens to undermine that.
Exactly. And people don't want to give away their privilege.
Of course. And maybe, to help us as we close off, what happens when family loyalty becomes a barrier to moral clarity?
Yeah. Well, that's an excellent point. See, this is the thing. We're taught to, obviously, it's fundamental to be respectful of your parents. Fundamental in our religion. But here, the Prophet ﷺ, he's advancing a message, but he's also saying maintain kingship, maintain ties, maintain not just obedience to parents, maintain ties with your family. So part of their charge is not totally accurate, the Quraysh, right?
Part of their charge is not totally
accurate. Like, because he's not saying break off ties with your family, right? And this is a big thing. So, as the Seerah continues to proceed, some of the people like Walid ibn Walid, radiallahu anhum, when he's challenged on why he accepts Islam right after Badr, after being a prisoner of war, he said, look, I wanted to accept Islam earlier, but I didn't want to be forced into a choice between accepting Islam and leaving my family. He said, I was hoping Abd Shams, our dad, would have accepted Islam, we would have been able to come into Islam as a family. right?
So the family basically becomes the
The whole family comes in
the-
together.
right.
And so this is the thing. So we've spent time in urban areas, and this becomes a big factor. Like when people are coming into changing religions and stuff, it puts strain on families.
It does.
This is a very interesting thing. So even I, like, sometimes, in a simplistic way, well, the Prophet ﷺ was Sadiq al-Amin. Everyone knew he was truthful. When he declared his message, then they started rejecting him. Well, the people that lived there, they knew his character better than anybody. They should have all accepted.
Sure.
Well, though there were considerations. People said, okay, listen, hopefully my father, my brother might rest also, and we can come in together.
Sure.
I mean, that was a wish.
There's a social element to all of this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Humans are humans, and the drivers of human behavior are important, right? And in many of these cases, yes, someone like Abu Hudayfa took a stand. He accepted Islam.
Right.
The fact that Utbah did not, or at least at that time, well, Utbah never did, but that Hind accepted later, right? But others, this was a consideration that I can delay my acceptance, hopefully that I'm not the only family member coming in.
Okay.
Because this also happens with Suhayl ibn Amr, sons. Abdullah, Abu Jandal says, don't tell our father, the chief spokesman in the scene yet.
Right.
Abdullah tells him first, and then Abu Jandal says, the other son says, I've also accepted.
Okay.
So Suhayl ibn Amr's response is to imprison them.
Right. Later on.
So he imprisoned.
Sure.
And it happens very shortly after this.
Right. Assad, anything else that you want to maybe highlight, on this episode? I think we've pretty much covered the gamut.
Yeah. Now the key is, if we look at Abu Lahab is, we would classify him as an evil personality. Okay, but he's not stupid. See, there's a difference.
Do you think that
he's an intelligent person.
Do we think that we often, because we think he's a bad guy, he is stupid?
Exactly. No, his rejection of the truth is extremely intense. And, he's angry with even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The way he sees it, understands it, I'm superior in stature than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so I should have been the prophet, right? But he knows his nephew better as well as anybody. He knows the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He knows the truth. But this is where we have a surah where the wife is putting garbage in front of the house. So you see here, the question is not on accepting truth. The question is, how do you spin this? How do you pivot this to discredit the most credible person in all of Mecca? Right. This is where the battle lines are drawn here.
And again, we've said this before, one who you yourself attest to his trustworthiness and truthfulness and integrity.
Exactly.
At the Kaaba, Suhayl and Abu Lahab tried to bury the truth in the weight of bloodline, tradition, and fear. But what stood out wasn't their speeches, it was the quiet moment when Abu Jandal, Suhayl's own son, Abdullah, that stood up and walked away. Sometimes walking away from the noise is the most honest form of testimony. So here's a reflection for today's session. When those closest to you reject the truth, do you follow them or follow what's true? Join us for the next session, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.